Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous, and welcome to the Twin Peaks episode or part 15 watch-along titled There's Some Fear in Letting Go, something I'm sure many of us will be experiencing at the end of next weekend. This episode, of course, was written by Mark Frost and David Lynch and directed by David Lynch. A couple things before we begin. One, as you can see, I'm all by my lonesome today. This has to do with like scheduling. It's just been a wacky, wild, crazy week for me, and just people I normally would do videos or watch-alongs with. We've just been intersecting like cars in the night. So it's just been one of those weeks. But I used to do these watch-alongs by myself, and so I figured, hey, if I started doing them by myself, I can have one or two more by myself if that's the case. So hopefully we'll get through this together, and hopefully I won't bore you too much. I try not to have too many silences, so just bear with me. Number two, Showtime has confirmed that they are going to be keeping this new series of Twin Peaks on their website and on their streaming platforms longer than the 3 weeks that were previously announced. So I don't know how much longer, but they said Twin Peaks is staying on our sites for right now, which is great news because, a lot of people were saying, hey, why should I keep subscribed to Showtime if they're just going to get rid of it and possibly the series doesn't come back? This way, if you want, you can keep the, Showtime until it comes out on Blu-ray, or, if you haven't already figured out a way to download the episodes yourself. Number three, I'm sure you guys have heard this by now, but I just want to throw this out there. Part 16, the episode that airs today at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern time here in the States, was accidentally dropped in the UK last night. So many people out there now are on Twin Peaks forums and Facebook groups and videos making predictions about what they think is going to happen in this next episode, when really what they're doing is throwing out massive spoilers. So just be aware that this is out there. Even though I am recording this podcast live and there is an audience watching, I am not, just so you guys know, I'm not going to be checking the chat today. One, I'm just going to be busy trying to keep notes and say a bunch of stuff, but also in case there is a troll that jumps in there and starts throwing out spoilers, I just don't want to see it. So, so forgive me if I don't comment on your conversation in there. I'm sure it's awesome. We haven't been bombarded with trolls before, but I just want to make sure that I don't, or none of us, I don't know, if you see someone in there, just, get out of the chat. But I just don't want to see anything. So that's where I stand. Anyway, how you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. I can't believe we only have a week left of this. It's been an amazing summer of David Lynch. Tonight is obviously part 16, and then next weekend we have 17, 18, and then it's over. Over in terms of being on TV, every week, not over in terms of in our heads. There's still a lot of stuff we're going to be sifting through and figuring out. And obviously with Mark Frost's book coming out in October, we still got more coming that way. So if you do watch these videos or subscribe to these channels, stay subscribed, because, just because Twin Peaks is not going to be playing every week doesn't mean we're not going to still talk about Twin Peaks on a regular basis around here. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Since it's just me, we're just going to jump into the episode today. I'm doing this on the Showtime website. And so if you guys want to follow along, that would be great. If not, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this episode 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times already. So you probably will know what I'm talking about as we go through it. Just so you guys know, there's always that minute-long Showtime ad before. So if you guys are syncing up, I just want to let you know. I will let you know when it says Showtime Presents if you are following along in another country. Okay, so let's get started. I'm hitting play now, and Showtime ad is starting. Ray Donovan, of course. I don't know. I've never actually seen Ray Donovan, but it looks like a pretty good show. I'm a big fan of Liev Schreiber, but it definitely looks more interesting than that stand-up comedy show that Showtime has. I could be wrong though. I haven't seen either one. So, okay, Showtime presents. Here it goes. And we have the Rancho Rosa sign, black and white and red all over, just like reminds me of Clive Barker's Books of Blood. Whenever we're opened, we're red. Okay, so we have the awesome opening credits to this show. I really love these opening credits. I'm glad I love the silence with the trees, and then the music kicks in. It's just perfect. Julia Cruz is falling. Yeah, I'm really gonna miss this feeling of tuning into Twin Peaks every Sunday. We got kind of spoiled this summer. It was like from May till September. We've been living in Twin Peaks land for a while. As if you follow my videos, you know that I haven't really been posting up other topics of videos very much this summer, because I've wanted to just immerse myself in this world and be a part of it, and as much as I could, and because I knew this was a special thing and it was not going to happen very often in life. So I definitely wanted to just not talk about a bunch of other stuff. Just wanted to talk David Lynch, Twin Peaks this summer. So seems like you guys have been having a great time doing that with me. So thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so come up out of black to this beautiful tranquil shot of the trees and the mountain. Just some of these like nature shots are just absolutely gorgeous that they did in with the digital photography. And the episode begins with Nadine just troopsing down the road carrying one of Dr. Amp's gold shovels. I got a little nervous when I saw this the first time, because I thought she's just going to walk up and bash Ed in the head because it seems like there's a lot of awful things that happen in this series, like just in broad daylight. But no, she arrives at Big Ed's gas farm, which has obviously moved. It's a new location. I kind of chalk it up to Carl Rod's the new Fat Trout trailer park. So Big Ed has obviously made enough money to move his location, which is kind of nice. Now, the first time I saw this scene, I was like, wow, this is coming out of nowhere. Like, this is just easy plot construction. Let's just have Nadine decide after 25 years that she's just going to let Ed go. And it just seems so random. Upon a rewatch, it definitely... it makes more sense. Just the performances make more sense. I think the first time we see this show, I think as Twin Peaks fans, we are kind of on edge every second, because we don't, we're like immersed into it, but at the same time we're kind of distanced from the material a little bit, because we keep bouncing around from character to character and not really knowing which timeline we're in, or sometimes the context of what we're talking about. So, or the characters are talking about. So it's just it's a different experience than watching the original show, but it does make sense more on the more times you watch an episode. That's why some people would say like, oh, episode 3 was just the trippiest thing ever, and it was, until you went back and watched it like 2 or 3 times, and then you realize no, it's actually pretty straightforward. It's just the first time you see it, it's just like, wow, it messes with your head. But I do love the fact that she's kind of inspired by Dr. Jacoby of all people. And Everett McGill is one of those actors like Richard Beamer that looks like he's been playing this character for 25 years. There's like no time has passed. He's just perfect. He's just, Ed Hurley. It's great. And of course, Wendy Roby as well. She's still very much Nadine. I'm so glad that they found these actors and cast them to begin with, but also that Lynch was able to track down Everett McGill for this new series, because it really would have been lacking without him in it. I love the fact that she says that Dr. Jacoby is the only one in this town that tells it like it is. That makes me a little nervous, because if people like Nadine are completely trustworthy in Dr. Jacoby, God forbid if one of the woodsmen takes over Dr. Amp's video podcast and starts chanting out, this is the water and this is the well. Yeah, so she just goes marching back with the shovel. It's hilarious. But because Big Ed's gas farm has moved, it may explain why Jesse was able to hear the gunshots coming from the Double R diner. Because a lot of people were saying there's no way he would have heard those shots. Well, maybe now it would have been. All right, so here we have Ed coming to the Double R diner, and it's all this whole scene is set to Otis Redding's "I've Been Loving You Too Long" from the Monterey Pop, which makes me happy because Monterey Pop. I live in Monterey, California, and where this concert it's about 10 minutes from my house where I live now. So it's very cool. Now, this scene, I think, is absolutely perfect. I love it in every which way. The only thing that threw me the first time I saw it is that it's kind of a redo of the scene that happens 6 episodes before the end of season 2, when Ed just walks into the Double R diner and proposes to Norma. So it's kind of like it is kind of like a redo of that scene, only in even a more mature way. So, and the first time you see it, you're thinking, oh my goodness, you're kind of siding with Ed, thinking that Norma just threw him to the side to be with Walter. And it's like, well, can you blame her? I mean, she's been waiting like 40 years to be with this guy, and there's been multiple times where they could have been together and then they're not. So I think the audience at first is like thinking, oh my goodness, she just cast Ed aside, is why it's so funny when he asked for a cyanide tablet. But on a rewatch, of course, it seems very clear that she doesn't have eyes for Walter at all. She just is using Walter to unload her shares for the diner. She wants to just concentrate on the Double R. I love the fact that she talks about that she wants to spend more time with her family, and Walter's like, what are you talking about? You don't have a family. And right when she's kind of getting into it, we cut away. And of course, we know her family, her sister being Annie Blackburn, mentioned earlier in the season, that was on the Laura diary entries that they found at the sheriff's station. Some people online have told me, no, they think that Norma's referring to her family in the town, for the town of Twin Peaks, or Shelley and things like that. But if that was what she was referring to, she wouldn't have said, I want to spend more time at home, which says to me that maybe her mom's at home, maybe she's taking care of Annie. I don't know. But now this part really, I don't know, it's really interesting to me, because Ed closes his eyes because he's just like, he's so sad and distressed, and he's just concentrating, and then Norma, when she brings her hands up on his shoulders, it's a very touching, sweet moment, but it does make me nervous because of the whole stuff that Gordon was saying in a previous episode of we're the dreamers, we live inside, we dream the dream, and then we live inside the dream, something to that effect. The way Ed is concentrating, it makes me worried that Norma coming up behind him is him living inside the dream. The only thing that throws that, of course, is that they have the cutaway to Shelley smiling. So hopefully this is not Lynch playing tricks with us, and it's just a dream that Ed is having. Hopefully this is a legitimate happy ending for Ed and Norma, even though I feel like we've already gone through the motions of this scene in the original series. It still is expertly written, acted, and directed, though. She puts her hand on his shoulders, and it just God, Everett McGill just does not get that much attention as an actor, and same thing with Peggy Lipton. I mean, they are absolutely wonderful together. In fact, out of my top 5 favorite scenes in The Missing Pieces, they had one of them. The scene of them in the car talking, I think, is just one of the most beautiful and haunting and devastating scenes that I've ever seen deleted from a motion picture. And this, having the music swell up and then them kissing, the song just keeps going, and then these cutaway shots to the nature with the mountains and the trees and the blue skies and the clouds is just so gorgeous. This episode or part has so many amazing transitions in terms of this kind of stuff, in terms, because later on we get like the moon in the clouds. Here we get the blue skies in the clouds. Lots of trees, dissolves the trees, cutaways the trees. This is very much an episode that is one with the landscape, I would say. All right, we have electrical wires and with the static. There's a lot of that in this episode as well, and I love it when they kind of bring it. They kind of do the contrast between like Ed Norma to Mr. C coming down the road. It looks almost like the same shot in part 1, but it's definitely a different road. And they of course play the Penderecki's Victims of Hiroshima again from part 8 on the soundtrack, which gives it that very eerie feeling. And of course, this is Lynch's favorite shot of, a car headlights traveling down the road at night. That's something he's been using ever since Blue Velvet. Now, I'm under the impression, I could be wrong, but I'm under the impression that Mr. C, or the doppelganger, is in New Mexico, right? Because in part 8, it's implied that this convenience store is near the testing ground for the atom bomb. So right now he's in New Mexico heading towards Nevada. That's what it seems like, at least. All right, woodsmen greeting him at the front. Yeah, I love this look of the building with the convenience store. It's I love it so much. And I like the fact that, everything's always above the convenience store. And of course, there is no second story to this convenience store. But then when they walk up the stairs, we realize that the second story is on another plane of reality. And then when the woodsman and the doppelganger go upstairs, we get the crackling of the electricity and them kind of moving in and out of reality, very much like what we see in part 1 when Cooper is talking to the fireman or the giant, when he says, "You are far away," and then Cooper just disappears in sort of like static electricity. I love these shots, these push-ins of the trees in the woods. I'm telling you, David Lynch has done more for making people look at the woods in a different way than same thing as like what Spielberg did with the ocean and Jaws. All right, so the doppelganger shows up in the room that Laura Palmer's painting is based on, which is great. Another way of tying in Fire Walk with Me even more. The woodsman pulls this lever, electricity. We see the jumping man in the corner, but it keeps cutting back and forth or in the face, and we realize it's Sarah Palmer. I don't know if it's just implying that it can be Sarah Palmer, or whether it's saying that the jumping man has possessed Sarah Palmer. I don't know. Guess we'll find out. But it's very creepy. And then, of course, this woodsman pulls out the long staff, very much like the Animal Life guy in The Missing Pieces, the Calvin Lockhart character. I love this tracking shot, or the Steadicam shot through the hallway. It's great. And then we get as they move down the hallway, we get the dissolve back to the trees, so that overlays it. Very well done. This is the kind of stuff. Listen, Twin Peaks fans love a lot of different things in Twin Peaks. The more it gets into the mythology of it, I think it becomes so fascinating. And it's great. It doesn't have to answer everything, but just them portraying this kind of thing is answering without answering, if that makes any sense. Just by them exploring the terrain gives us more answers than otherwise. And now they're going to be going up the staircase that we saw when Gordon Cole was looking up through the whatever the whirlpool or whatever was up to the sky. So this obviously is where Gordon would have been sucked up to. It'd be interesting. I hope they answer a little bit about where Chet Desmond went. Like, where and did he get disappeared to? Is he here somewhere, or is he on another plane of existence? Is he locked up in the White Lodge? I'd like to know a little bit more about that. All right. I love how the doppelganger just walks out, and then we're at this motel. That's great. A lot of people have told me that this motel is perhaps where they filmed the Leland and Teresa scene in Fire Walk with Me. That may well indeed be true, but that doesn't mean that it takes place at the same motel. This motel obviously does not exist in reality, according to the story. So I think they just try to make it look like any motel USA. But this whole scene is fantastic. I love it. And of course, the outside the motel room is the letter 8, which is in the same styling as the 6 on the telephone pole that we've seen in Fire Walk with Me and this new series. This lady's so creepy. I'll unlock the door. And of course, I didn't even notice it until later that she shows up in the end credits as well. I was too busy taking notes the first time to realize it. I thought it was just that one shot outside the motel, but no, they definitely cut to her just standing there, and it's very creepy. Lynch is just a way of having just creepy people in his movies that no other horror film can really duplicate. And Kyle, of course, goes without saying, is continuing to give a masterful performance with every character that he does. I mean, we didn't see him that much as the original Dougie. I mean, that was a little goofy, but I think it was always meant to be that goofy anyway. So, but him as Dougie, the Cooper as Dougie, and as the doppelganger, just you just can't beat his performance. It's fantastic. So he goes into this motel room, and what I love is Lynch, of course, is continuing pulling from a lot of his works, and we get this this great shot of the room with the radiator there. And if the lady in the radiator had shown up in the scene, I wouldn't have been surprised. It's weird. It's like the wall disappears, and then or it just kind of moves, I guess. And there's Philip Jeffries, who has become sort of a version of, I don't know, is it, some people said the Liberty Bell, or it looks very much like the that contraption thing that is at the fireman's house or castle, wherever that is. I find it interesting that Jeffries is like, oh, it's you. But then later on, he says, you are Cooper, aren't you? So maybe he's aware that there's a doppelganger, but then realizes the doppelganger isn't just a standalone creature, that he actually is one and the same with Dale Cooper, in terms of whatever Cooper knows, the doppelganger knows too. So in essence, he is Dale Cooper, just the dark side, but he's fully Dale Cooper with memories intact. He is asking about whether or not Philip Jeffries contacted him 5 days ago in the motel. We still don't have an answer to that. I mean, he says he didn't, but he says, I don't have your phone number. So maybe we'll find out who called him. Then we get the cutaway back to Fire Walk with Me, with Nathan Frizzle doing the voice for Philip Jeffries, which, I mean, I understand because Lynch probably wanted continuity with this scene, but I don't understand because the voice coming out of this bell thing is supposed to be a little bit distorted. So it would have been fine to use David Bowie's original voice for the Fire Walk with Me flashback, I think, but maybe there's more to come that will explain it. I like the fact that they're bringing up the whole Judy thing. But I know for a lot of Fire Walk with Me people, I think they were getting a little bit nervous, like, oh my goodness, Lynch is like spelling it all out for us, which was mysterious for 25 years. Now we're really exploring it. For me, I love the fact that we're exploring it because it puts Fire Walk with Me even more into a proper context. Philip Jeffries giving out the numbers that many people are saying are the coordinates to Ruth that Ruth Davenport had in her body. A lot of people, obviously me too, thought the coordinates were leading to the Black Lodge, but some people are saying now, and I could get on board with it, saying the coordinates are leading to the fan inside Laura's house. That would be something. Yeah, they're really playing up this Judy angle. My bet, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think Judy is Nido, just because of the history of what Lynch wanted Judy to be to begin with, which was Josie's sister. Doesn't mean Nido is Josie's sister, but it would make sense. And the doppelganger would not know Nido, but Cooper did meet Nido, so therefore the doppelganger has Cooper's memories. And then they just boot him out. They boot him out of that convenience store and put him on the old payphone. So the doppelganger, or Bob, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Bob is still in him though at this point. He's just been rejected by his own group of people. And here's Richard Horn thinking that he can actually take on somebody from the netherworld with a pistol. What an idiot. I mean, he couldn't even take on Red. What makes him think he's going to take on, in his mind, an FBI agent? But we know he's an FBI agent with supernatural powers. And Richard should know this, considering he saw what this guy did to the crime boss in an earlier episode. So good. I'm so glad that Richard just got the crap beat out of him. That makes me happy. I hope Richard suffers a horrible, painful, awful death, because I hate this character. I hate him because he's a bad guy, not because I dislike the character. He's kind of the villains you see in those old stage plays where people boo and hiss at him. That's definitely who Richard Horn is. Just want nothing but unpleasantries to come his way. Now we have the doppelganger sending the text Las Vegas to Diane that she received, I don't know, a number of episodes ago. So again, playing with the idea of the timeline. I'm really interested if the timelines are going to come together in this series, like something's going to happen, much like what happens with Dougie later in this episode, and things get put into order. Or will we be creating this timeline for ourselves after this series / movie is officially over? I really do hope there's a moment that connects it all, so we at least have a starting point that we can bounce off from. Now, I'm not sure what happens here. Is the convenience store kind of imploding? Like, okay, it feels like an Inspector Gadget message, like, okay, this message will self-destruct in 10 seconds. But I do love this idea of the smoke coming out of the convenience store with all the electricity and light and going into the woods. It's very creepy. It's like the Black Lodge is seeping into our world even more, not just in an isolated place like this convenience store, but through the woods and goes wherever it needs to go. Like the Black Lodge is not just one place, it's now everywhere. And then we cut to the woods again, only daytime. And it's funny because we see Mark Frost here. He's reprising his role from the opening episode of season 2 as the reporter Cyril Pons. It's funny that both Hal and I did not pick up the fact on the initial reaction video that this was Mark Frost. I think sometimes for a lot of Twin Peaks fans, we're looking this way and we're not seeing what's right in front of our nose like the first time we see it sometimes, and that's what's so great about doing these videos, is because what I see is different from what you see, and what you see is different from what someone else sees. And so when we all talk in the comments or talk on via the videos, it's fantastic because we all kind of come to a collective understanding right from the start, and we're not doing this 6 months later. Although I'm scared to death of what we're going to be seeing or thinking about with this series 6 months from now. What else are we going to come up with? Now, Steven is rubbing his left leg, which is really interesting because Jerry's left leg was, not his own, and Dougie's left arm went numb, and of course, Teresa Banks' arm went numb. So there's definitely like a continuation of people rubbing their appendages or having issues with them. Now this scene, I have to say, you really need the subtitles on to get it. Yes, you can understand it from their faces that they're in peril, but to hear their dialogue, to properly kind of put in context what may be happening, I think you definitely need to have the subtitles on. And it has some of the filthiest dialogue that Mark Frost and David Lynch have ever written together, I would say. But it definitely appears, I mean, who knows, but it appears from this scene that he has hurt or killed Becky. And Gersten Hayward, this is Donna's sister. You wouldn't know that from anything in this series. You only know it from the credits and knowing that Alicia Witt played this character, the same character, back again in the season 2 opener, which is interesting that Cyril Pons is here because these two characters are the only two to kind of be in the season 2 opener and never come back again. But yeah, this is, I know I've said this before, but I just don't understand how Renee in part 2 is sitting with Shelley and the friends at the Roadhouse. I'm sorry. And she says, "What are you talking about? Everybody loves Steven. I don't look at this guy. Who the hell loved this guy in terms of everybody loves Steven? I mean, this guy looks like he wouldn't know anybody in the town." So, and how did Shelley? She's like, "I really think that Becky might be with the wrong guy." You think? I mean, look at this guy. He doesn't seem like he can hold. I mean, can you imagine what the wedding must have been like? I don't even think he could have walked down the aisle or been waiting at the front of the aisle. But Alicia Witt, she's kind of one of the unsung heroes of David Lynch films too. She's been in his films going all the way back to Dune, and she doesn't get a lot of credit for her roles, but she does a great job. And I mean, the actor who plays Steven, I'm sorry, I forgot his name at the moment, but he's doing a great job. I just wish we saw Steven maybe in more happier times before this drug episodes happen, because he's just been a wreck since we've been introduced to him. And I would love to see what made Renee say that everyone loves Steven. And of course, we have this like weird scene of, and only Lynch could do this kind of thing, where you have Alicia Witt crying, Steven going berserk in terms of like, he's kind of having an epiphany that he doesn't want to be on this planet anymore, but he wants to have sex with her one more time, and it's very weird. And but also, if you're drugged out of your mind watching this, you might think this is an erotic scene. But look at Mark Frost. He's like, "What the hell?" See, I didn't recognize him either because of the hat on his head. I should have known by the glasses, but that hat on his head just I thought it was just some random extra one that they had gotten. But yeah, she's just really freaking out here. She's probably like, I wonder if her character went downhill because of maybe whatever happened to Donna, if they ever say anything about Donna. But I do also love this idea of the trees, just this normal shot of the woods that you would see if you were in the woods. Seems like nature is coming down on her, like it's surrounding her, it's engulfing her. This beautiful, vista of trees is also a curse as well. I like how Cyril is just kind of just moseying on into the trailer park. Again, another character that appears to be living in the trailer park. Nobody has only Laura. Laura's family has like this really nice house. Everybody else seems to be piss poor, apparently. Now, see this close up. This is where I should have known it was Mark Frost, but I was kind of engulfed in the scene that I didn't even realize it. But he's pointing to Stephen and Becky's trailer where there's a wood covering the hole where the coffee cup went through. Hopefully, Becky's okay, but I guess we'll find out soon. All right, now we go to the Roadhouse and the announcer with the that looks like Jimmy Scott's the pine cone microphone. Now I could be wrong, but remind me. I think this is like the only time in the history of all the shows that that they've played like band music at the Roadhouse without a band being there, and it seems so weird having like a rock and roll track just blasting at the Roadhouse, but it works for this scene. All right, so here we have James and Freddie showing up, and James, of course, he never learns, decides to say something to a married woman right there in front of her husband. Now James speaks clearly until Renee's husband Chuck starts kind of yelling at him. Then he gets kind of nervous and jittery with his voice. Now this was something else I didn't notice the first time around, is the fact that she keeps saying Chuck, 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 and of course Chuck isn't. I believe Chuck is the one that got his truck stolen, or Chuck stole the truck, or I can't remember at this point. But it has to do with Billy and Richard Horn. Now Freddie, of course, shows us what he can do with that green glove. Apparently, knock Renee's husband either unconscious or dead. I don't think we find out exactly what happens, but it doesn't look good for him. But maybe Renee will be single now and can date James. Like he says, I try not to hit him that hard. No, it didn't look like he put any effort in whatsoever, but he's got that sort of superhero X-Men glove thing. And Renee doesn't like scream at James or anything. She's just kind of like, oh, yeah, this sucks. But James is very concerned. He's like, he doesn't look right. It is interesting because, okay, I'll talk about that in a second. We're going to Vegas here, and we're at the FBI, and Wilson, of course, they brought in the first Dougie and Janie family in for them to talk to. Brings in someone with multiple kids, plural, which of course annoys his boss because they're only supposed to have one kid. And these scenes are just completely played for laughs. I mean, they're funny. They are a bit like over the top in a way that Lynch's comedy is. Look at that little girl with holding the heart like that. That's so funny. He's like, well said. Now, okay, does Mr. Todd here have a mirror? Is that a mirror in front of? Oh, it is. It's a mirror in front of his desk because it looks like Mr. Todd doesn't have any legs, which makes sense because we don't see him. I don't think. Well, I guess he does get up at one point, but he's always sitting at this desk. And Chantel comes in and shoots Mr. Todd and Roger. Um, and Roger doesn't die, so Chantel has to go back and kill him, which upsets her because, it's taking away time from her French fries. Mr. Todd, of course, was trying to figure out where is Anthony, Tom Sizemore's character, because he was supposed to take out Dougie himself, but we all know that he kind of confessed in the last episode, and so we don't know quite what's happening with Anthony. But yeah, she wants her French fries, and off she goes. Now, at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, we're back in the holding cell area, and Hawk and Bobby are putting James and Freddie in a holding cell. Now, one thing I would have put in here is I would have had James and Bobby acknowledge each other, not in a conversation, but just like James, Bobby, as they walked away. Because I mean, who can forget that great moment in the pilot, and Bobby and James are looking at each other in the holding cell, in the same holding cell. And also would have been great acknowledgement of the fact is, here they are together at the sheriff's station. Just a few episodes ago, Bobby's looking at Laura's picture. We know that they found Laura's diary at the station, and now James is in the holding cell. It seems like everything's coming together in terms of Laura's past life. I just wish it could have some acknowledgement there, but it is what it is. James notices Naito across in the other cell. Saw a joke someone sent me saying that it's a good thing Naito doesn't have eyes because she can't see that awful ugly sink in her cell. It's a good thing Freddie is here. I think this is purposeful plotting here, because I think the woodsman, because we know in part 1 the woodsman can come into a jail cell and float in and out of one. I think that Freddie is there on purpose so that when the woodsman tries to crack someone's head, Freddie's going to be there just to take him out. He was not put on this destiny or put on this world for his destiny to be a security officer at the Great Northern. I'll tell you that much. I also think it's weird that James is a security officer at the Great Northern, considering that Ed and James's ties to the Bookhouse Boys probably would make him a better candidate for being a sheriff's deputy than Bobby Briggs, who himself killed a sheriff's deputy in a fire walk with me. Now, this scene is so Tarantino with Hutch and Chantel. It's very much like the pumpkin and honey bunny stuff in Pulp Fiction. And also the fact that they just came off Hateful Eight together as well. They have that kind of rapport. But still, though, I love these two actors. I love Jennifer Jason Leigh. I love Tim Roth, and I wish Tim Roth would direct more movies. He directed this amazing film called The War Zone, which is one of the most heartbreaking, devastating, painful movies to ever sit through, but it's astounding. And I love the fact that they look up and she sees the power lines, and in between is Mars. And of course, we remember in the original series that when Jupiter and Mars are in conjunction, that's when the Black Lodge is open. All right, this scene. I don't know, obviously, what's going to happen after this scene, but this scene by itself will go down as one of the great scenes in Twin Peaks history. And we're kind of set up for a regular Dougie scene, Dougie and Janie E, and him having his chocolate cake. Now it seems like everything is all right in the world. She's kind of come full circle at this point where she's back in love with Dougie. She's very happy with him. She's like, our dreams are going to come true. And usually this is when the fit hits the shan in movies, when everybody's happy. I remember sitting here watching this scene and thinking, okay, cool, Dougie's scene. I love watching Cooper's Dougie. He's hilarious to me. But then it takes it to a whole other level in a second. He arranges, I don't know if these are salt and pepper shakers or just decorations, but I like how he arranges them as the Twin Peaks. It's kind of cool. He's really enjoying that cake. I think Cooper's eaten more chocolate cake in this series than cherry pie. Now, I don't know why he's playing with the remote, but except maybe just like flashy colors, but he's going to hit the power button in a second. There you go. Just still eating that cake. So he hits the TV on, and playing on TV is Lynch's favorite movie, Sunset Boulevard. And we have Norma Desmond, which is kind of funny because you have Norma and Desmond, Chet Desmond. And then when Mr. DeMille says, "Get Gordon Cole," all of a sudden, boom, Cooper comes to a realization. And it's just like you could hear Twin Peaks fans across the world going, "Oh my God, is this it? Is this it?" And I've never seen a show before or movie where you're rooting for the hero of the show to stick a fork into an electrical outlet. and come what may. Now, what I love is that he came out of the outlet in part 3, and he is going to he doesn't go into the outlet here. He actually falls backwards. So I don't think he's going to the fireman right away, but this is going to do something. Either it's going to wake him up or it's going to do something. This isn't going to just be an isolated incident where Dougie just shocked himself and that's it. But yeah, he's like, you're like, "Oh my goodness, get the fork in, get the fork in. You can do it. You can do it." Like you could just hear us all just wanting this to happen because we know that Cooper is protected, right? The one-armed man would show up and be like, "Don't die." But when he sticks the fork in, it's like, like in the words of Kevin Smith, "Yes, bitch, do it." And I love the fact that Janie turns around and just screams really loud. And then we go to black, and hopefully we'll find out what happens soon tonight. All right, now we're into some very, very sad stuff here. This is when Margaret makes her final call to Hawk. It's amazing that Catherine Nicholson was allowing herself to be so, quote unquote, naked emotionally on camera here. This is not something that's easy to do, right? But she does an amazing job, and it's very sad that she doesn't have anyone else in her life to talk to, apparently, right? No friends, no family. She just has Hawk. By the way, I have to say that is an amazing lamp that Hawk has on his desk. I absolutely love it. But yeah, it does make me sad that she doesn't have anyone else in her life to talk to except Hawk. And I'm glad that Hawk is such an understanding, amazing human being to listen to her phone calls, maybe on a nightly basis. But he's a wonderful soul, and I'm glad that she was able to connect with him before she died, according to the series, at least. When she says there's some fear in letting go, oh God, I mean, how do you watch that and not get completely moved? I mean, these are thoughts that a lot of people think, but they don't express out loud. These are kind of things that people go through in their heads before they move on to another plane of existence, wherever that may be. But Catherine Nicholson was a wonderful woman. She was very nice, and she was a huge David Lynch and Twin Peaks supporter. She waved that flag and never gave up on this franchise, if we can even call it a franchise. I'm just saying that in terms of TV show, movie, cable series, it's kind of, books, it's kind of a big thing. So when she says my log is turning gold, and of course it makes you think of the gold shovels and the gold box and Philip Jeffries and all that stuff. It's just I really hope the log lady, even though she dies, I hope that her presence continues to be felt in the last 3 episodes as well. And there's nothing more devastating to me when she says goodnight, Hawk, and he says good night, Margaret. Like, oh, this day will pass and she'll feel better and we'll talk again. But then when he hangs up, after she hangs up to guarantee that she's done talking to him, and he turns and just says, goodbye, Margaret, with that kind of beautiful, knowing smile that Michael Horse has. Yeah, that's just really, really sad. And I thought, when I first saw this, I thought, well, that's it, especially after we see the moon and, being covered by the clouds and going to darkness. I thought, well, there it is, and how tremendously moving it is that Lynch portrayed it this way. But Lynch is not done with the mourning of this character. No, he's going to stop the episode, basically, and have Hawk come out and tell the conference room of Bobby, Andy, and Lucy and Frank that the log lady has passed on. And then we get the log lady's cabin with the light going out. So, Margaret Lanterman gets 2 fade outs in terms of light going out into darkness. So he gives her a double exit. And this shot of Michael Horse coming out of the darkness and letting them know what happened. Michael Horse is another actor in the series that does not get the credit that some of the bigger actors like Kyle MacLachlan gets. But without these supporting performances, Kyle MacLachlan, as great as he is, these actors help elevate his performance, even though his scenes are isolated in this series primarily. If these actors did not hold their own, we wouldn't want to keep cutting back to them. And I adore all these actors. I love the touch of Frank Truman taking off his hat. What a noble character he is. This shot of Hawk in the darkness, putting his head down, absolutely stunning. Perfect. And again, we dissolve to the trees. This is a shot we've seen earlier in the series, but still, it's absolutely beautiful. And then here we have the log lady's cabin again, and we hear the insects chirping, but now the light slowly goes out. So very moving, very touching. Okay, here we are, back with Audrey and Charlie. Looks like they still haven't left, but it seems like the same scene that we just keep cutting back to, only just maybe a few minutes later. Now, I have gotten contacted by somebody who has an amazing, interesting theory on these two. Of course, you've heard the theories that Audrey's in a coma, or Audrey is on invitation to love, or something of that nature. Well, this person who wishes to remain anonymous contacted me and said, think about it this way: Audrey and Charlie, like AC, right? Like alternating current. They talk in circles. They never go anywhere. They're just at a standstill. And of course, then that makes me think of the missing pieces in Twin Peaks when the little man in the above the convenience store scene says, "From pure air we descend." So maybe I don't know how it is, but maybe this is a symbol for that, especially since Charlie says threshold here, which of course makes you think of the dweller on the threshold. But Audrey's words here, she actually manages to. It seems like Charlie's just tired of Audrey. Maybe that's the case, but it also seems like she stops him in his tracks. He actually, like, when she says, here you go again. I look at you in a new way. I don't know who you are, who are you, Charlie? And that makes Charlie freeze. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna take off my coat and stay home. But yeah, there's more to this than even what we're seeing here. Who knows what it is? Hopefully we find out soon, just because I would like some sort of extra context to what's going on than just the bickering couple. But each new scene of Audrey and Charlie, while it's still frustrating, they do get better as they go on, because the more obviously you see, the more context you can kind of draw from. Especially, but I have no idea what he's talking about in the last episode, where he was just like, I could end your story. What does that mean? I could end your story? Anyway, so he takes his coat off, and it's funny how, like, okay, yeah, Audrey just charges him and starts strangling him. Man, she is just out of control in this series. But she says, what the hell in this scene, but what the hell has been repeated at least 3 times, I believe, in this episode, which is, I always make fun of it, because when Gordon sees the image of something earlier, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, where he's just like, what the hell? Always cracks me up. But yeah, this seems to be that should have been the poster tagline for this series. All right, here we have Charlotte Yee. You may have seen her in Knocked Up, but she's in this amazing, adorable film called Paper Heart. She does with Michael Cera, which is another connection to the series. And here she is sitting at the Roadhouse, and I love this moment where the two kind of bikers, whatever, after she says, I'm waiting for someone, they just pick her up and put her on the floor. And because she can play this so well of like, okay, I'm just gonna be here and passive and let you do what you want to do. I'm just gonna sit on the floor. It's very comical, but in brilliant Lynch tradition, he takes something that's comical and then takes it to a nightmarish level. Now, okay, so this is apparently the 3rd time in the series this has happened. Now, it's probably happening more times and we don't know about it, but at least 3 times we know. Okay, we have the Cooper Naito scene that's going on concurrently with the Sam and Tracy moment. We've seen that matchup. Then we've seen Sarah Palmer watching the boxing match and having that timed with the Woodsman speech. So that matches up. 3rd one is this. This character of Ruby, played by Charlotte Yee, is crawling on the floor, and apparently you can match it up to Dougie crawling on the floor towards the electrical outlet earlier in this episode. And when Dougie sticks the fork into the outlet and Janie screams, it matches up, apparently, to Ruby in this scene screaming on the floor of the Roadhouse. That is pretty amazing. But it's obviously, it keeps Dwayne Dunham working overtime, the editor. But yeah, they did a really nice job. Obviously, they're doing a lot of cutaways to the scene, so it's not like they knew with a stopwatch, okay, Charlotte Yee's gonna walk and then she's got to do this at this point. They have a lot of cutaways here, so they knew that in editing they could pace it to the Dougie fork scene. So it's not like they had it all mapped out in terms of time. They just knew that it had to match up. So that's what they did, and I think it's brilliant. All right, so we go to black, and then we come up to the motel, and creepy episode, fantastic episode. The show is amazing. I can't believe we only have 3 episodes left. It seems like we just started. But when I go on the Showtime site and I'm trying to get to the next episode, I'm like, oh my God, look how many episodes of Twin Peaks there were. It doesn't seem like there were that many, but there really were. Yeah, so the credits just roll, and it's just it's very eerie with the black and white imagery. I love the fact that David Lynch is going back to black and white in several sequences in this show, especially in part 8. Beautiful. But I remember the first time this episode was on, I was like taking my notes and kind of like, okay, kept looking up, like, okay, here's the shot of the motel. And then, of course, like towards the end of this credits, it cuts, and we have creepy lady that was hanging outside the motel waiting. It should be coming up any second now. That's right, when the Twin Peaks and Fire Walk with Me Sunset Boulevard credits come up, right? No. All right, it's right when it says "in memory of Margaret Lanterman, the log lady." Here we have the outside of the motel. For it just cuts for like a few seconds to the lady just hanging outside the motel room, apparently waiting to just let people into another room. So there it is, part 15 of Twin Peaks, The Return. Fantastic. It's just amazing stuff here. I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry this is coming up later than usual in the week, but it's been a rough, crazy week in scheduling and everything like that. So, but I wanted to get it done before the new episode drops in a few hours. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. This episode, of course, will be uploaded to the Vimeo account. I'll upload it to the YouTube account as well, as people kind of move over to the Vimeo account. I just want to remind you guys that, yeah, if you got, continue to subscribe to the main channel on YouTube, but also subscribe to the Vimeo account. If you need to know what the Vimeo account is, this is it. Some people have contacted me and said that the site doesn't work for some of your guys' players. I'm sorry for that, and that is why I'm still uploading the stuff to YouTube. But YouTube at any minute can freak out, and so I want to make sure the videos are protected at least on one site. So make sure to subscribe here as well. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching, and enjoy part 16 tonight. And Hal and I will be back later tonight for the initial reaction on this channel. So, again, it's been wonderful. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.